The following is a video series reviewing the top 20 most common bird species found in St. Joseph and Elkhart County of Indiana. The data was gathered from eBird.org, a website used to record bird sightings and observations. The report covers the past 10 years, 2010 to 2020, of observations in St. Joseph and Elkhart counties. It represents the most commonly reported, not necessarily the most abundant. This methodology helps to standardize the data between birds that travel in large groups and those that are more solitary. Coming in at number 17 is the House Finch, or the Haemorhous mexicanus. The House Finch is part of the family Fringillidae, or the finch family. The House Finch is a small grayish-brown finch-sized bird with heavy streaking on its flanks. House finches have a finch-like conical-shaped bill, black eyes, and a notched tail. The sexes look different in appearance, and the male is distinguished by its reddish plumage on its crown, back, eyebrow stripe, shoulder patch, rump, and neck. Females sometimes have a faint reddish color, but never as bold as on the males. The juveniles look like the adult females. Overall size of the house finch is 5 to 5.5 inches. Here are some photos of a male and female. As you can see, their thick finch-like bills are tannish grayish in color, and they are both heavily streaked on their flanks. While they both are brownish and grayish all over, the males have a red cast to their bodies. In the wintertime, the male's plumage becomes more drab in color with less of that red coloration. Here is a map of the current distribution of the house finch. What is interesting about the range of the house finch is how much it has changed in the past century. Only 70 or so years ago, house finches were only found in the western United States, their native range. In 1939, a few house finches from a pet store in New York City were released. It is believed that this occurrence, coupled with the natural expansion of its western range, has helped establish this species across the eastern United States. Therefore, house finches are now a year-round resident to Indiana. The eastern population's habitat is quite different from its native range habitat preference. In the west, house finches can be found in a variety of remote habitats like deserts, grasslands, desert shrubland, as well as some more urban environments. In the east, house finches are found almost exclusively in settled areas within urban and suburban regions. Most commonly found where trees are present, like parks, backyards, and forested edges. House finches typically flock in pairs or small groups. They will perch in shrubs, trees, and sometimes even feed on the ground. When in flight, their flight pattern is undulating, or a smooth rising and falling movement, similar to a goldfinch's flight. House finches have a song that is also undulating in behavior. It is a series of high and low notes mixed in with buzzy, slurring sounds. Males sing more often, but the females do too at times. Let's take a listen. The call note of the house finch is a quick note which sounds a bit like cheep, sometimes in an upward inflection. Here's an example. The house finch is an herbivore, meaning they eat plants. Here in the eastern United States, most of their diet is from seeds from bird feeders, but they will also eat some berries in the wild, like mulberries. House finches are definitely feeder birds. In fact, in the eastern United States, house finches get most of their diet from bird feeders. It is pretty easy to attract house finches to your feeders. If you would like to attract this bird, the best feeders for house finches are tube feeders, both large and small and large hopper feeders, and platform feeders. They will also eat fallen seeds on the ground. Best food for them is black oil sunflower seeds, hulled sunflower seeds, safflower, and Niger seeds. The house finch average clutch size is 2 to 7 eggs. They will make a small cup-shaped nest made out of grasses, leaves, thin twigs, and rootlets. They will build their structure in various types of trees, as well as man-made structures like fence posts and street lamps. Of course, this is not a bird that is in major trouble here in Indiana, but let's take a look at its worldwide status. In 2018, the house finch was considered least concern by the IUCN Red List. This means that the species population does not qualify as threatened or endangered. As previously mentioned, the house finch has only recently been established in the eastern part of the United States. The house finch's native range is the western side. The remarkably fast expansion of their range has been almost unprecedented compared to other introduced species around the world. The ability for this species to adapt so quickly from desert habitat to urban habitat, where they rely almost exclusively on bird feeders, is still not fully understood by scientists today. With that being said, the species does face a health risk, that is, infectious disease. A strain of conjunctivitis called Mycoplasma gallisepticum, or MG, has devastated the house finch population across the country. This infectious disease affects the eyes and the finch's ability to see. And what about the house finch's vulnerability to climate change? Remember, climate change is the term used to refer to the Earth's average increase in global temperatures in the last 50 years due to human activity. The temperatures rising just slightly, think only a few degrees, can have a massive impact on birds. In 2019, National Audubon Society released their publication of the Survival by Degrees, 389 bird species on the brink, which focused on bird species' risk of extinction due to climate change. The report found that for northern Indiana, the house finch is considered to be at a low risk of extinction due to climate change. Now let's review some other bird species that are commonly confused with house finches in our region. Let's start with the most commonly confused species, the purple finch. Purple finches and house finches look very similar, and their songs even sound the same. Both species occur in Indiana, but the purple finches are far less frequently observed than the house finch. They migrate here and even further south for the winter, and typically nest further north during the summer. Here are examples of the males of both species. Off the bat, they look pretty darn similar, but there are some differences to pay attention to. The redness on the house finch is more orange-red in color when compared to the purple finch, whose redness is more of a deep red, almost raspberry-colored. Overall, the purple finch's reddish plumage extends all over its body, including its wing bars. One more thing to look out for is streaked flanks. The house finch has more streaking on its flanks than the purple finch. Other subtle differences to look out for that can help distinguish these two species is body shape and bill shape. The house finch is said to have a slimmer body with a slightly curved culmen or upper bill, and the purple finch is said to have a stockier body with a straighter upper bill. The females of these two species also look very similar. The best distinguishing characteristic between the females of these species is to look at the white eyebrow and mustache stripe on the purple finch female. The house finch female lack these markings. Telling apart the house finch from the purple finch can be tricky, especially to the untrained eye. With that being said, once you learn these differences and notice them in the field, it will become more clear as to which finch is a house finch and which one is a purple finch. Now we will move on to a few more species that could be confused for house finches here in Indiana. House finch females tend to be confused for house sparrow females. They are about the same size and about the same color. However, there are some key differences to look out for. For one, female house sparrows do not have streaking on the flanks like the house finches do. Also, the house sparrow has more creamy brown mixed with black colored plumage on their wings and back. Finally, the female house sparrow has a cream-colored eye stripe on the side of its head, whereas the female house finch does not. Now we will move on to two more species that could be confused for house finches in Indiana, but these last two species are only here during the winter time, so keep the time of year in mind when trying to identify birds in the field. First up is the common redpoll, which is a species that is only found here in Indiana during the winter. They are the same size as house finches, and the males are very similar in such that they both have red. However, as you can see in these photos, the location of the red is different on each bird. The red plumage on the common redpoll goes around their bellies, but their bellies remain whitish in color. Also, the red on their head is more concentrated to just their forehead. This is different than on the house finch, which extends that red color on their crown, eyebrow stripe, cheek, and shoulder patch. Finally, let's compare the female house finch to the pine siskin. Pine siskins are only here in Indiana during the winter and are less common than the house finch. The pine siskin looks very similar to female house finches because they are basically the same size, both of the finch family, and both are grayish-brownish in color. Although they are alike, there are some key differences to look out for. The pine siskin's beak is more pointy than the house finch's beak. Also, the pine siskin has a yellow patch on its wings, which the house finch lacks. Thank you for watching the video on number 17, the house finch, commonly found in St. Joseph and Elkhart counties of Indiana. For more information on other common birds found in this region, please visit SBEAudubon.org. The sources for this video are listed in the video description.